So that's going to start recording now in a few moments here. Okay, so that's recording now, and then if it's just come back in to the Padlet, and I'll just keep the names and all just so I can see everybody's name to the one side. So I'll just move this over a wee bit. Okay, so just who would like to start off then? You know, who's the first post here on the on visual language about control? Is that Connor? Okay, so I think I see your little message there, yeah. And okay, so maybe I'll not get you to talk through it then, but at least I'll maybe do a wee chat here through it. So yes, I see you've mentioned about your visual control and about, of course, of the game, yeah, controlled by aliens, yeah, they blurred, okay, it's deeper into the building, yeah. Well, you can think, when you think of this, so you're thinking visual layout, yes, from your point that I'm understanding here is a visual layout, like the composition and an environment are kind of key things in the visual language, and that, you know, the aesthetics, and from my understanding of your point, okay, I know that's good. So then if we just come to the next point here, I've just come back to switch to the names here so I can see everybody. Okay, so who wrote this next point?
I think that was me. One sec. Yeah, that was me. Visual language is displaying and showing your story in a more visual way without any words. One of the best examples for me of visual language has to be at the end of Avengers Endgame, whenever the portals all open up and every character who was snapped away at the end of the last movie appears through them. They all line up for one final fight. This scene is quite inspiring as it shows even when all is lost, you must keep fighting until the very end.
Okay, yeah. And the Avengers, I think I've seen some bits of the film. That's probably different, isn't it? Avengers, yeah. And but again, you know, it's looking at the composition, you know, the colors and the shots and the scene. Yes, you sort of mentioned. You know, it's kind of engaging your user in a way. Yep. Okay. And that's good. So who wrote this next one here? Visual language.
I think that's mine.
Okay, Mark. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Visual language is a method of storytelling where you can tell your story to an audience by using visuals and graphics. An example of this can be seen in the game Firewatch, where you can uncover numerous mysteries that cannot be easily explained, and it leaves a lot of its subject matter up for interpretation by the player. So characters don't outright just tell the player what to think or feel. It just kind of shows the player things and then leaves it up to them to decide.
Okay, yes, that's good. So you're sort of maybe given like the user control, really, like if they can see a shot and environment, you know, graphics, and then they can maybe go down different pathways. Is my kind of understand. I haven't played that game Firewatch, but I can imagine maybe, yes, you've mentioned visuals and graphics. They're very important, you know, they're like visually the visual language and the way it can be. I suppose there's other things with visual language like composition and balance and you know, crop shots and you know, some people try and get symmetry and lighting and so on into it as well, you know, to try and prove, you know, maybe not I suppose what's the word I'm looking for, not consciously doing it, but it might be you know, something that can just try and appeal to somebody. So it can. And then Richard, yeah.
Yeah. The visual language is a system of communication using visual elements such as you know, perception, comprehension, vision, all that. And in games, stuff like that is mostly the level design or the world design as well. And for example, in the game Red Dead Redemption, while you're going through the world, you have to follow certain NPCs, get their stories. And while you're doing that, it can trigger cutscenes which will visually show the world and visually communicate to the player what the world looks like and how everything looks like.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, yep. And because you've met, yeah, it's very much like the special effects and so on can maybe help and sort of engage somebody as well. And even that name, Red Dead Redemption 2, and I just the sort of the sound of the name probably has would convey some sort of cinematic effect as well from the the way it's been sort of illustrated to appeal to a different audience, try and sell it and engage somebody to play it. Yeah. Okay, that's good. And then so we've got who's this next one here? The Peter Pan, yeah.
That one was mine.
Yeah,
So
okay.
again, visual language is simply telling the story in a visual way rather than through dialogue or other means. So the reason I picked this one apart is mainly because the start and ending themes are both the same. Like, it's just the main characters in their house in London. So I thought it was a good example of how it doesn't at the end of the movie tell you, and this is what the lesson you're supposed to have learned from this movie, or this is what they learned. You physically see in the tiny details, like in the ending scene, they seem much calmer, much happier. You see that in small details such as like posture and things like that. But as well as that, the tiny the visual details can tell you whether character can whether you should like, for character design, the visual elements can tell you, oh, I don't think that character is going to be a trustworthy one, or I think this, like, oh, by this going from London to Neverland, you can automatically see in the visuals, oh, so we're in a much more like fantasy area, and it can give you massive details about storyline and characters and things like that.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good. I mean, the visual language, yes, you mentioned important. You've mentioned body language, yeah, and I can see from reading that, you mentioned a wee bit about shots as well, and the different environments. Yeah, okay, no, that's good. Yeah, okay, thank you, Dana. And then who wrote this next one here? Call of Duty. Call of
That's
Duty.
right.
Okay, Casey. Yeah.
Visual language is a story that is told through the use of visuals such as still images, illustration, videos, which can be enhanced with graphics, music, or voice. My favorite example of visual language is the game Call of Duty Black Ops. Within the campaign, it has detailed intros to the missions, showcasing files on antagonists with flashing images and videos, which engage you into the story. With the new enhanced PS5 specs, the Black Ops visual language looks more real than ever, which creates the immersive experience.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good, yeah. And so that's is that the more realistic kind of special effects in it, Call of Duty?
Yeah.
It seems like it's got more, kind of more realism has been created in that one, but definitely all those things you mentioned, graphics and the illustration, the videos and so on. And even typography is another one that most of you can, if anybody ever, if you think about in films and animation and even in games too. I'm sure there's like special, typography, title sequences and introductions to things sometimes can be really appealing as well. And as another element, into visual language. So it can. Okay, no, that's good. So then we have this next one here, Gravity Falls. I can see it.
That's mine.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Neve, yes, yeah.
Yeah. I think visual storytelling can be seen through features like camera shots. For example, like long shots can be shown to display an environment or setting, whereas close-up shots can be used for more details that could like further the plot line specifically. I think weather is also a key feature, as it can often like reflect the tone or atmosphere and inform the viewer whether they should be like scared or carefree in that environment. An example of this can be seen in Gravity Falls when they use like fog, shadows, or dim light to create an eerie tone.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like with visual effects, like if you use After Effects or something like that, you can create all those kind of things, and they can help, with the use of visual effects to create a mood, or whether it's raining outside or a sunny day, or as you say, fog and shadows and so on. The use of lighting too can really help, set the scene for the mood, to create that kind of realism. Okay, well, that's good. And then so this next one here, but below.
That was mine.
Okay.
Visual storytelling is when visuals are used on screen to tell the story. It is a process that includes a lot of pre-planning because it involves working out character positioning and character movements, camera positioning and prop positioning. Visual language is usually rather subtle, but it plays a large role in how the audience views the movie or gameplay. A good example for visual storytelling, I think, is No Man's Sky. I think it's got a really good idea of how to portray an environment because it's got very visually appealing environments, and because you're exploring different planets and different universes, you're experiencing all sorts of different landscapes, and it's sort of each place has its own story because of how it looks and how it all plays out.
Okay, no, that's great. Yep, good stuff. And this next one here,
That's mine.
Catch the Changs, Jasmine. Yeah, thanks, Tiernan. Yes, yes.
I said that visual storytelling language is the use of images or anything visual to display the narrative, and it is primarily told through video, illustration, or photography. And my favourite example would be The Cat Returns, which is a Studio Ghibli movie. And I love the part where it shows how the cats all start to act like humans before she's brought into their human-like world. And it's shown through them having like cats in human positions and acting like humans.
Okay, that's great. Yep. Yeah, but definitely through video, illustration, photography. Yeah, and yes, and then you see, yes, you've mentioned about kind of humanizing. Is that humanizing the cat? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's good. Yeah, great. And then so the next one here, there's no name on that one.
That's me.
Okay, Brian. Yeah.
For me, I think visual language is when you try to display the story in a visual way to showcase something off, like environment or how time is passing in a world. For me, I think one of the best examples of this would be from the show called Dark, when they show off the older and younger versions of the characters and the environment side by side. This kind of inspires me, as it goes to show how time can be cruel and fortunate to others and places during the story.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Yeah, yeah, because you mentioned the characters, the environments, and so on. Yeah. Okay, no, that's great. And then I think this next one, this is Cahill, I think.
Yeah. Visual studios to me is being able to tell the audience just emotions that are running through a scene or what's currently happening without portraying any voices. This can be done whether just having someone in the foreground taking up most of the camera to display dominance or strength. The game I look at for visual language is Shadow of the Colossus, because it has such big characters, but by the way the camera moves, it makes you feel powerful enough to take them on and take them out.
Okay, no, that's good. I'll just maybe click if you've got like a little Pinterest link on that, so it kind of been useful to see. Yeah, well, it's got kind of good use of special effects and everything in this one, and so just the graphics and all are quite, it sets the kind of scene. It's more realism, and it's got the color combination too is kind of very. It's like it's nice and soft, in the background, but it's not like quite, it appeals to an older audience, I would imagine that, and rather than like for a child too. Okay, no, that's great, yeah. And then we have let me see this last one here. I think it's Call of Duty as well, yeah. Maybe that was Jack. I know he had to go to the dentist. Okay, no, those are great. All the things with visual storytelling, and when you think like visual language, yes, is all the use of color. How the colors have been conveyed, and the lighting as well. and there's a daylight or dark, and effects and weather and things like that were touched on, and like fog, and whether it's an eerie environment that you're trying to create, shots, composition shots, like cropped up shots, close up shots, and so on, can really engage a user. But also, yes, if we think about how those can all be used together, to create some sort of a pleasing scene, and it's good to have variation in a scene, so it's not all the same shot. And you want to have a wide shot or a close-up shot and so on. And then the other thing, I always think even can be, when thinking of graphics, visual language, typography, and title sequences. That can be something that can be used. Like old silent films, they would have used every now and again. I know we all have the audio visual now, and but how telling the story through, introducing, if you've no sound in dialogue as such, you can use a typography or visual language that way to help tell a story. And if you're maybe mixing it up with sound or music and typography effects is another thing to think of. Okay, no, those are great. So there's lots of ideas and plenty of group discussions today, which are good, which would be great evidence and for discussions. And so what I'll do is I'll just stop the recording now, and then I will save it. Okay, so that's